Hi everyone, Gerard Scarpaci here for Professionals Who Practice number 20. This is a series that we do with our good friends at Pivot Point, where we show that even the most accomplished professionals still practice and teach and really experience new techniques using mannequins. Today we're with my good friend Paula Peralta. I love Paula because she's just 100% positivity, 100% love, which is amazing in our industry to have someone like that. From the minute I walked in the door here, I felt like a ray of sunshine just shining down on me. And we'll talk about that because we're in her salon. It's called Salon Mix. Yeah. It's here in Glendale, and it's called the Atwood area.
Atwater Village.
Atwater Village is the new hip spot here in LA.
We're so hip.
We got a lot of cool stuff to talk about, but number one, what we're going to be talking about is styling curly hair. We've got the great Amber mannequin from Pivot Point, and we'll talk about how beautiful this hair is to work with. But let's get in here, Randy, and let's take a look at Paula's technique. Share with us.
Awesome. Thanks, Gerard. I'm so happy to be here. Thanks so much to Hairbrained and Pivot Point for this opportunity. We are going to be talking about all things curly hair today because I think it's one of the biggest mysteries sometimes in the industry is people just run from curly hair. I personally, growing up with curly hair, had a lot of challenges going into salons, and so that's actually one of the reasons I became a hairdresser, was to help people like myself that maybe had less than desirable experiences in salons. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be empowering each of you to approach curly hair. We're going to talk about some tips. We're going to talk about some tips and tricks, and we are going to really talk about 4 different ways to style curly hair naturally. So it's not about having to manipulate the texture or really do anything crazy. It's about working with what's on the head and how to look at it, how to identify some of the challenges and address them, and then empower your guests to style their hair so that they look amazing. So we have 4 different little quadrants here that I've styled each one differently. So we'll start right here. So this first technique we call Bantu Knots. So it's really, you can see they're like little knots. Some of you may have heard them referred to as Zulu knots. I am a brand ambassador for Paul Mitchell, and I've worked with Paul Mitchell for most of my career. And we used to call them Zulu knots when they were first introduced, I think like 20 or 30 years ago. So now we've just shifted a little bit because times be a-changin'. So I'm gonna show you guys how to do this technique, and we'll dress that out eventually. We have a comb coil technique as well, showing you how to create a little bit of a tighter curl. This quadrant right here is our beautiful Amber's natural texture. So learning to play with natural texture is that's ground zero. So you definitely want to know how to identify and start to play with what's happening here. And then next, in our 4th quadrant, we have what we call finger coils. So this is probably the 2 that most hairdressers are familiar with, but I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how to prep the hair and set yourself up to win every single time, whether you're going to be rocking that natural texture, whether you're going to manipulate it into something like a Bantu knot, comb coils, or whether or not you're going to do those finger coils. So I'm actually going to take this Amber, it's like a cooking show. We're going to pop her under the hood dryer so that we can keep these Bantu knots drying while we work. So I'm going to put her
So Paula, while you do that, I just want to let everybody know what's happening. I know a lot of you guys are just joining us. I'm Gerard Scarpaci, co-founder of the Hairbrained community. We're here in Atwater Village in Los Angeles at Salon Mix with Paula Peralta. This is part of our Professionals Who Practice series. You can see we've got the beautiful Amber mannequin from Pivot Point. And what we wanted to focus on today was, kind of eliminating the fear of styling and working with natural and curly hair. And Paula, that's one of the things she's known for in her experience working with Pivot Point, with Paul Mitchell over the years in testing and developing products. Yep. So we're going to talk a lot about product and styling and how to get the most out of beautiful natural curly hair. And a great way to practice is to use the Amber mannequin. So
and
one last thing, if you guys have questions, I'm manning this, so I want to see your questions. Share the love, share the questions. Let us know where you're watching from.
Gerard and I are both talkers, so you got to give us the questions so we can keep chatting, because that's what we do every single day. So I actually I love working with this Amber mannequin. I work as a curly hair specialist, like Gerard said, in Atwater Village, Los Angeles, California. And I love working with this Amber mannequin because it is truly a natural representation of what curly hair does, different ways that you can play with it and manipulate.
Quick question for cutting.
Yeah.
Have you used this to practice or teach cutting? I'm sure you have a way that you work with curly hair.
Yeah, I have. Well, it's so funny because I know that a lot of hairdressers are have really firm, only scissor cuts on curly hair, only razor cuts on curly hair, or some people are don't ever put razor on a curly hair. And I actually subscribe to every canvas is going to be different. So some guests you're going to be able to get away with doing a little bit of a razor cut, depending on your desired end result. Some guests, you're really gonna have to play with scissors, again, depending on the shape that you're looking for, the end result, how that guest styles their hair, what their maintenance program looks like. There's so many variables as hairdressers. We know this whether or not you're working with curly hair or not curly hair. There's so many variables that you need to be aware of, and so it really just is like every job has a tool and every tool has a job. So understanding when and where to use each of those is really important. But yes, I have cut the amber mannequin and it's beautiful. The shape's incredible. The curl bounces back and responds so beautifully.
So you're getting a lot of love coming in, guys.
Hi, everybody.
We've got Mary South watching from England. We have Tammy Brandenburg watching from Maryland. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks,
We've
everybody.
got love coming in for your smile and amazing curls from Alessandro Giarda. Thank you. We love the
Thank
positivity.
you. I grew them myself.
Quite a bit more of that. Jacqueline Tolig says beautiful. And guys, if you have any questions, Paul's about to get into.
Yeah.
Tell us about this process of using product.
Yeah, for sure. The product's really, really important. And honestly, even more than product is prep with the mannequin. So I'm actually, as I go through my process, I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about what I did before. So this is just a little bit of nourishing oil from our tea tree lavender mint. This is Paul Mitchell. This is actually a product that we haven't even launched yet. So you're getting like a massive sneak peek into some of my favorite products to use curly hair with. But or to use with curly hair. So really when you're playing with the mannequins, or actually models, guests, anything, curly hair really starts with the prep. And actually over here we've got a nice little lineup of what I like to use primarily in the salon when I'm working with curly hair. So the biggest thing with curly hair is most guests only are shampooing once a week, if that, maybe once every 10 days, every 2 weeks. And so you really want to make sure you're clarifying. I like using the Tea Tree Special shampoos. Any clarifying shampoo, obviously depending on whatever brand you work with, is really, really important. I work in a Paul Mitchell focused salon, so we use only Paul Mitchell.
Not only do you work in one,
That's
you
true,
own one,
that's
girl.
true.
You're the owner
Oh,
here.
I can't snap my fingers because I have too much
Lady
product.
boss,
I got
lady
too-
boss.
That's right. And I actually have a beautiful co-business owner, Lady Boss Sarah Grandinetti as well. So we'll talk about her when we talk about the happy class. But so when we play with, you want to start with a clarifying shampoo, and then hydration is so key. Like you absolutely positively need hydration in the hair in order to create success. So I will always use our Lavender Mint Moisturizing Shampoo. I'll always use some sort of a mask. I really like, this is again my favorite. Whatever your favorite deep conditioning mask is can be great. I love the Lavender Mint. It's super hydrating. Hydration with curly hair. I cannot overstate that enough. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about product application before we move through. So what you saw me apply was our Tea Tree Lavender Mint, the leave-in conditioner. So when you're playing, oh, here you go, sorry. You like that? Do you everybody see that?
Inquiring minds want to know. Show us what you're using.
All right, so I'll talk through the process. So basically, kind of the natural hair process or product application, LOC is what you need to know. So that is...
Okay, I love this one. I just learned it. I'm never going to forget it. LOC.
LOC.
We were just joking when I came in. It's like, if you don't think a product is important for curly hair, just look at a yearbook from the 70s and the 80s.
It's like
before
Frizz.
we had any products.
Right? Like I said, the struggle was real when I was growing up with my curly hair. It was not cute. It was not a good look. My mom did her best, but it was not good enough. So
Here's a good funny one from Katie Rusho.
Yeah.
It says moisture, 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 not Marsha, Marsha, Marsha.
that's totally. So LOC is really, really important. So L stands for leave-in, O stands for oil, and C is going to stand for cream or gel. This is really the standard when you're playing with curly hair. So in this quadrant, we're really working with Amber's natural texture. So the LOC, you can really start to see, what's happening there in terms of, as I went in with my leave-in, I subsection, I apply, making sure I'm applying all the way from the base to the ends. What happens is as you start to apply each of those, and I like to drop one quadrant, apply the leave-in, apply the oil, and then apply the cream or gel, then go to the next section so that I'm not consistently disturbing
Can we
each.
talk about the application? Because
Yeah.
even that, I think people
Yep.
don't quite get right.
100%.
You didn't just like scrunch it in. You're sectioning it.
Yep.
You're kind of raking, would you say, call it
Totally.
raking with your
Yep.
fingers?
Yeah, for sure. And so one of the things that I like to do is I like to make sure that I'm applying base to ends. So generally speaking, I feel like when people style curly hair straight, they use too much product, and when they style curly hair natural, they don't use enough product. So with the curly hair, you definitely want to make sure that you are utilizing enough product, which is why I like to subsection, but I will do the LOC on every single section as I drop it. So here goes my oil. So I already did the leave-in. This is our tea tree, because I know people are going to ask. This is the Lavender Mint Nourishing Oil. So this is going to give me the moisture as well as the shine. So that leave-in really starts to put the moisture into the hair. The oil actually starts to smooth down the cuticle and lock in that moisture. So once I have the product in my hand, as long as the hair is wet, I don't have to worry about creating frizz, but you can see that it's starting to create definition, right, by utilizing that product. So that becomes really, really important. So then next, the C is cream or gel. When I'm styling natural, usually I'll use a gel. It's just what I prefer. So again, same thing. I'm gonna go ahead and work it through the hair, base all the way to ends. So you'll start to see too, even the difference between having just the leave-in and the oil. You start to get more separation, more definition, and then that's really where the curl starts to live. So I don't like to go through and do the whole leave-in and then do all the oil and then do all the cream, because I feel like it disturbs the curl pattern too much. So I will go in, like I said, with every single quadrant. So I'm going to go through my next section.
So Paula, there's obviously lots of different techniques and ways to apply to different textures of hair.
Absolutely.
So you're sharing your method. Is this how you do your own hair, Randy? Can we see Paula's hair? Yeah, that's how you do your own. And how would you describe your own hair texture?
So my texture, there's a lot of different ways that people talk about. They'll talk about like a 3A, 3B, 3C, 4A, whatever that looks like. So for me, I would say hair is hair. It doesn't know any like race, gender preferences in any way, shape, or form. So I usually work with like a fine, medium, coarse, and then straight, wavy, curly, extra curly. Sometimes you'll get that extra coily hair, or sometimes a zigzag formation, but it's really more in terms of like your texture that you're working with. So whether you're fine, medium, or coarse is going to dictate how much product you use. Obviously finer texture you may use a little bit less, whereas those like higher density, like more coarse textures, you may need a little bit more product.
Essentially, this is your philosophy. This is what you use on yourself with clients.
And that's the thing is, like with curly hair, you have to know all of the different possibilities, because every curly head of hair is going to be totally different. So this is the way that I play a lot in the salon. It's not the only right way to do it, and really, there's not a wrong way to do it. You need to do what works for the hair. So you're always going to be kind of shifting and playing with the technique. This is really like foundational kind of information. So like I said, the leave-in oil cream, like that's pretty, I'm going all over the place. That's really consistent and standard in the industry. Like any natural hair blog, any sort of kind of natural hair blogger, or like a lot of those naturally curly conversations will play with the LOC method. And then from there, again, like I said, you're going to fine tune based on your desired end result. Okay. So this technique right here that I'm going to show you guys is, this is something that I do a lot. So obviously this is where I styled in her product. It's good. I can let her air dry. I can diffuse, which we'll come back to in just a minute. The next technique is, this is finger coils. So the reason I like to use finger coils on my guests sometimes is because sometimes they want to like expand their texture a little bit, or they want to make their curl a little bit bigger, but they don't necessarily want to like work too hard. So I've just taken this whole bottom section, and you just give it a twist. Like you wrap it, you coil it around your finger.
So you call this a finger coil?
Yeah, it's just a finger coil.
Does it matter the size of the section? Does it vary?
So the bigger your section, the bigger your section, the bigger your curl is going to be, obviously. The smaller your section, the smaller your curl. But obviously, if you're working with your fingers, you really can only ever be as small as the size of the finger that you're working with. Mm-hmm. So just like all curls, not all fingers are created equally. So if you've got a big finger, then you might have a bigger coil. If you've got
Does
a little
direction matter? When you're doing these finger coils, do you alternate direction? Do you go always in the same direction?
So generally what I'll do, just because I'm a salon owner and I've often got a lot of guests in the chair at once, but what I'll do is, just to make it easy for me, I'll do one section or one row going one direction, and the next row will go the opposite direction. You can alternate back and forth because that does mimic the natural hair pattern more, but it's a lot of work to remember those kinds of things.
Danielle McAllister is wondering, what do you
Hi,
do
Danielle.
with the coils afterwards?
That is an excellent question. So what I usually will do, and your timing, Danielle, is impeccable. So one of the things I do is, you think of this as almost like a set, right? So you can see that I'm seeing some of that product kind of peek through, and that's okay, because essentially that just tells me I've got enough product in there that this end result is going to be set. There's not going to be any frizz. I'm going to have a nice consistent coil as I go through with my end result. So a couple things can happen. One, my guest can air dry, or two, I can set her under the hood dryer, which actually just popped off, that we'll turn back on in just a minute. Or, thank you. Yeah, that'd be awesome. Thank you so much. Just so we can make sure it's nice and dry for our dress out. So, the other thing I can do is I can diffuse. She can leave with this set as well. So once we bring over the dry mannequin, you'll be able to see kind of what the end result looks like once it's set in. But this is just like you would set on like a curling iron thermal styling. This is more like old school wet setting, right?
Awesome. So a lot of love coming in.
Thanks.
Thank you all for sharing. Of course, there are many ways to share curly hair, and there's lots of people on here that have their
100%.
opinions, which is
Yes.
great. We respect all opinions.
100%.
Today, we're sharing Paula Peralta's approach, and she's a salon owner here. She's been doing hair for how long?
Almost 10 years.
10 years as a hairdresser, working for
Yeah.
Paul Mitchell as a
Yep.
Paul Mitchell brand ambassador.
Totally.
We'll talk a little bit more about the products you're using, and,
Yeah.
and you helped to develop some of these.
Yes, I did. It was super fun.
What we're also doing here is showcasing the amber mannequin from Pivot Point. So if you want to learn and experiment with beautiful natural curly hair, this is a great mannequin to try that out with. They're available at the pivotpointshop.com, whether it's learning cutting, coloring, styling. You did one of these series for us a while back, coloring curly hair,
Yeah.
which was wonderful
Highlighting,
as well.
that was really fun. It
Okay,
was super
so
fun.
basically in all four of these quadrants, using the same product 4 times, but then dressing them differently?
Just variations of, so this actually, it's so funny that you said that, because now as we move over, whoops, my hands are slippery. So as we move over, I'm actually going to shift into another technique called Bantu Knots. So I have already pre-prepped her with a little bit of product just for ease. So Bantu Knots are a really great opportunity to create that sort of coily texture, but expand it even a little bit more. I would say I generally would use Bantu Knots on a guest that has that extra curly, coily texture. Or sometimes this is great for people that want a little bit more curl in their hair, but don't necessarily have it at all. So it's a wet set. So think about if you were to like put like a party perm, like a wet perm on someone, this will kind of give you a similar end result. So what I'm going to do is subsection here. Actually, before I do that, she's still a little damp. So with the Bantu Knots, you want to take out as much of the moisture as possible, because like I said, it is a wet set. So I'm actually going to take my dryer, and I'm just going to take a little bit of the moisture out of the hair. Yeah, and again, remember, there's like so many ways to get from point A to point B when you're dealing with like texture and curly hair. So I love also what you're saying, Gerard, about how everyone's coming in with their opinions, because that's so cool. Like, people have found what works for them, and that is really like, that's what makes you successful as a hairdresser. And that's what we talk so much about.
We got what, something like 300 million plus potential clients in the US. So you got to find the right ones for you. Now Paula is doing pretty well. She owns this beautiful salon here in Atwater Village. You said you've owned it now for 3 years.
Yep.
So you purchased it. You and your business partner, and you guys have created a beautiful business here, thriving. That's what it's all about. It's about creating a technique, learning a technique, practicing it, developing it. That's what we call craft hairdressing. And then figuring out how to take that out into the world. Paula's done that here at Salon Mix. She's got a booming business. Now tell us about your relationship with Paul Mitchell and these products, because a lot of people are interested in working with a product company, and you got to help develop some of these products. Tell us about that.
I did. I was really, really lucky to play with Paul Mitchell from the very beginning. I actually was mentored by a woman named Lucy Dowdy. I don't know if you've heard of her.
I think I've heard of her. People used to think we were married, me and Lucy. We were a little cut and color combo.
She's incredible. So I actually had the opportunity to travel with Lucy quite a bit early on, even as a student. I was able to work with her and assist her, and so she trained me a lot on just like the importance of the fundamentals and foundation, and just really building a strong skill set. And then from there, she supported me. I was able to come on and start working as a national educator for Paul Mitchell, and just have more and more opportunities. All right, so we're going through with our Bantu
Let's see
knot.
this knot. Let's get in there. Randy knows how to get in real close.
Right?
We got special lucky today. We've got Randy Taylor behind the camera.
He's
The eye,
so good.
the eye of the craft hairdresser.
So what I've done actually is you start twisting, and you're gonna, this is just, it gets real old real fast, but basically you just keep twisting, keep twisting, keep twisting, keep twisting. Oh, I see Candace on there. Hi, Candace. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a pin and just pop that little guy there, and that Bantu knot can sit up, and it's gonna dry. There you go. I don't know if there you go. I'll get out of your way. So what you want to do is, the important thing is to make sure that your base is really consistent. So I'm going to stretch this hair, and that's really this technique, is to really stretch that texture as much as possible. And I'm going to tip her just a little bit to create some ease there.
So I'll tell a little personal story
Tell
because,
me.
you know, as we've said, you know, a lot of times even experienced hairdressers are not that experienced with different textures.
Right.
And I was doing a trade show once in Minneapolis with a beautiful model, extremely kinky, curly hair.
Yep.
I was able to pick it out and cut it into a beautiful shape, but we didn't want to just send it out like that. I wanted to try to style it. So I spent the day, and I'll confess to this, I spent the day watching dozens of YouTube videos, learning about different ways to knot and braid and set really curly hair. And I went out, I spent maybe 5 hours actually trying different things on her hair. I got a bunch of the team members involved, and we really got the technique down beautifully. Sent her home. The next day she came back, and I was like, "It's going to be amazing." I went to take it all out, and some of it was still damp.
Yeah.
It was like, oh,
That happens.
failure.
So you were almost YouTube certified.
But I was almost YouTube certified. But you know what? If I would have practiced and learned a little bit more, it's one of the things I
Totally.
didn't do.
Yep.
You know, I didn't get a great mannequin, even though I was already a pretty successful hairdresser, pretty well-rounded, but I just had never really done a beautiful, like, wet set on really curly hair before. So,
and especially when you're working with this texture or like a technique, like I know you were saying you did 2-strand twists, but like with Bantu knots especially, so I've got a pretty tight coil there, so all that, the heat or the dryness has to penetrate all the way through to that middle. So the other thing too is this will help with a little drying. So when you're on for your next hair show, when you're doing your natural texture, so you actually want to wrap the coil onto itself. So you'll see people a lot of time wrap from the bottom, but I actually like to wrap. I learned this from my friend Lavender Dryer. I don't know if you know who that is, but she's incredible. So you actually want to wrap the coil around itself, so that base creates like a little bit of I guess like a post, if you will, and then you just continue to wrap the other sections around it. And that's how you get it to stand up. And then also that standing up is what helps you to dry a little bit longer.
Is there tension, or are you very like light-handed?
There is tension, because the thing is, I'm twisting each strand so I'm not just like wrapping it around like a bun. I'm actually twisting the strand and creating a coil, as well as wrapping it around itself. So it's those two components that create a really beautiful curly end result that you guys will see when we start to dress out the other end.
Karina Swart has a question for you. She's
Hi,
wondering,
Karina.
Would this technique work on permed hair?
It will. So it's going to work. Honestly, you can do it on straight hair. You can do it on curly hair. You can do it on wavy hair. If it's permed, if it's not permed. So are you asking if you can actually perm, is I think what she's asking. Can you do this and then perm?
I think she means like if the hair's already permed and you wanted to style it.
Absolutely.
Or could you do a perm this way?
Yes, you absolutely could. And that's what's really cool is you can do the Bantu knots. So the only thing I would say is you want to use plastic pins instead of metal pins if you're going to go into a perm.
Right.
But yeah, for sure. So this is just a little... So you just keep twisting. I'm going to show you this too, because I'm going to show you the way that I originally was doing it, and my friend showed me a different way to do it, my friend LaDonna. So initially I would wrap it, and this is like, I think traditionally how we do this, how we would think to, because we do a lot of buns and like twists and things like that. So if you wrap it around itself like this, do you see how it just creates like a little ball? I don't know if that you can see the difference between those two. So what happens is it can't dry. Like it just sits there, and so it's not going to dry as quickly as if you actually create that post like we showed you and then wrap it around itself.
So it keeps more vertically expanding.
Totally.
So do you go all the way to the very, very ends of the hair?
Yep, all the way. Because you have to think about, going back to the perming analogy, remember like the fish hooks, if you guys, for those who've done perms?
Oh yeah.
So you got to make
I'm
sure.
old enough to know about that. I know Randy
Listen,
is too.
perms are back. It's not about being old. young people. I do like at least one perm a week.
That's great
I'm
to
perming
hear.
a lot.
That's great to hear.
So
Got
that textured hair is back.
Some love coming in from your girl Tammy Brandenburg.
Hi,
Paula,
Tammy.
You're rocking it.
Thank
See you this weekend at the Mid-Atlantic
Yay!
Show in DC.
It's gonna be amazing.
I'll be working the tea tree station. I love getting to practice these techniques and working with the new products.
Yes, for sure. All right, so I'm going to show you guys one more on just how we approach, because I showed you the way not to do it, or you can do it that way again. Like we said, there's no wrong way, but it's really just what's going to create the most ease.
I'll be honest. I love the way they look as just a style.
Well,
too.
yeah, and that's what's really cool too. Is it was big in like the '90s, which the '90s are back. Hello.
The '90s are back. Yeah, a little raver kind
totally.
of.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or even like Scary Spice rocked it. Gwen Stefani rocked it for a bit. So again, creating that vertical section and then starting to wrap it around. So that vertical twist creates the base, and then I continue to just wrap around that section.
So Wendy Florencio is wondering,
Hi,
is
Wendy.
this something just for naturally curly hair, or can you do it on straight hair as a set?
Yeah, that's a great question. You can do it. It is a wet set. Thanks, Wendy, for that question, because it is a wet set. So you can do this on straight hair and create really amazing curl. So we used to call it like a party perm, like how you'd wrap someone on a wet set but not put the perm solution in. You could do the same thing with these Bantu Knots.
Our good friend Danielle Green is watching.
Hi, Danielle. Yes, of
Danielle?
course.
Hello?
Yes. Hey, Danielle.
Danielle. Danielle's another curly hair specialist, curly hair cutting specialist.
I love it.
We love Danielle. We love when she tunes in, and we're going to get you on a Facebook Live. I think she's in Arizona or Las Vegas. We got to get Danielle on a Facebook Live. Got to make it happen.
All right, so there's my next one. So we're going to pop over because I know in the interest of time. So I'll just clip this away.
Right, so while you're doing that, a lot of people are just joining us. I'm Gerard Scarpaci, co-founder of the Hairbrained community. We love to share all types of techniques, all types of textures, all types of approaches. There's not a right or wrong way to do hair. It's about what works for you, what works for your guests. Today we're with
100%.
Paula Peralta, and she's sharing from her salon. It's called Salon Mix. We're showing you some techniques using the beautiful Amber mannequin from Pivot Point. Hello, Amber. Amber's got beautiful natural curly hair, which is great because so many of us need to learn more about curly hair.
Yes.
Paula is sharing in 4 quadrants, 4 different ways to style and set and create beautiful finished curl. Take it away, Paula.
Thank you. So I really am a huge proponent of teaching a guest to embrace their natural texture. One of my biggest things that I see in the salon every single day is a guest coming in and saying, I have the worst hair. I can't handle it. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I'm just getting ready to diffuse hair. So my hair is the worst. They're apologizing for their hair. So what if we could actually change the conversation with our curly haired guests and help them see that they actually have the best hair? And if they could...
I'm going to steal a line from Robert Cromean's hair.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
All of our, a successful, in one of his salons, he had it painted above the door. All of our clients think they have the worst hair. Our job is to help them love it. I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah, to make them think that they have the best hair in the world.
Yeah.
Yep, totally.
I love that.
Yeah, me too. And that's the thing is, so often, you have to remember, there's as much as we're talking about all this styling, there's also a psychology to curly hair as well. You have to understand that the majority of people are coming in and they're really having a lot of challenges embracing their natural texture. But the cool thing is curls are
What's happening here?
I'm being a hairy godmother.
Harry Potter?
A hairy godmother, like a fairy godmother. But,
I like that.
So I actually use, this is a tool that I use constantly when I'm diffusing curly hair. And I just wanted to talk to you guys a little bit. I know we're going to move on to comb coils in just a minute, but I want to show you how I diffuse hair.
I've learned a lot, but I've never done that, and that's so brilliant.
Yeah.
Just using the chopstick. Thank you. Thank you. I love that.
It is,
I've never done that.
Well, and the reason for that is because once you put the product into the hair, you don't want to touch curly hair. That's actually another thing I learned from Robert is no touchy. Once you get that product in and you start diffusing, you don't want to touch the hair because you can see here, she's got great definition. The curls are beautiful. There's no frizz in that section. One is because of that product application. Remember, we use the LOC method if you're just joining us. But the other thing too is that I'm using a lower heat, I usually use medium to high heat and then low to medium airflow when I'm diffusing. And then I use my chopstick to create the lift and the volume. So the other thing too, I'm gonna show you guys diffusing. This is one of the biggest challenges that I see hairdressers have when they're working with curly hair, is they're impatient. You gotta be patient. You gotta finesse it, right? You gotta be gentle with it. So what you'll see a lot of times is a hairdresser will crank the airflow up, and then you can kind of see, I don't know if you can see that because now it's pretty dry, but see how the hair is flopping around and kind of moving and So what happens is if you do that, and obviously, like I said, she's pretty dry, but if you do that when it's wet, that's what creates frizz. So you actually want to create like a low to medium airflow, depending, and not all diffusers are created equal. Even Paul Mitchell.
Can we talk about this blow dryer? It's
Yeah.
like some alien technology here.
It's like the Tesla blow dryer.
Explain what's happening. You've got buttons and
So this is actually the aliens in Alien Spaceship. So this is our newest Neuro Blow-Dryer. What's really cool about it is you actually have the opportunity to, again, it's all smart sense technology, so it's all touch-based. So you have your low, medium to high heat flow, as well as you can do an ionic component. And then also over here, I can do my low to medium to high heat. I've got a cool shot button, which is really cool. So as you go through and start to play, you can really create a beautiful end result with your curly hair. So as you, I don't know if you can see this, but it's starting, like that texture is really starting to expand. And what's cool is, even though she has this tighter coily texture, it's not frizzy. Like you can see the definition, you can see like the shine, right? Curly hair is like never shiny. That's why I love the LOC method, because you're putting that leave-in in there, you're doing the oil, which is gonna help to seal down the cuticle and create shine, and then as well as that cream, which creates the definition. So that's where you start to see the separation. So I always diffuse to 100% dryness. Like that's just how I roll. Some people like to leave a little bit of moisture in the hair, but my guests like to walk out of the salon with their hair big. Like they want manes of hair.
I completely agree. You know, like it's like if you do put a roller in the hair and set it, or even the Bantu Knots, if you take it out and the hair's still damp, it just falls out.
Right.
So for some, and again, everyone's different, and there's room for everybody in this hair world.
Oh, yes there is.
But I agree. Now, I just love this chopstick thing. I can't wait to go and buy myself. I have some actually nice ones at home, like
Paul Mitchell
Sterling.
actually makes these, the Paul Mitchell Pro Stick.
That's awesome.
Yeah. But it's like, I can't live without it. So the other thing too though, to keep in mind is if not all guests like to wear their hair like really, really big and voluminous. So if that were the case, I may pop them under the hood dryer, or I just won't use my chopstick. I'll just go in and kind of diffuse the hair and let the...
Now, do you ever do upside down, side to side?
So I do, but I generally like my guests to be comfortable. So if they're not comfortable flipping their heads forward, then that is what I'll do. I actually would...
You don't want somebody like throwing their neck out. Yeah.
Right.
Actually, one of the first salons I worked in Sassoon, we used to have people slide back and put their head on the edge of the chair.
That's what I do.
With the hair hanging off. And someone got a stiff neck and complained. And they said, no, we're not allowed to do that anymore.
Okay,
so,
but can I show you how to offset that?
Use a towel.
Yes.
Yeah, we did that too.
Oh yeah,
we
it
did
didn't work.
that.
See, listen,
It's just somebody got a stiff neck. And
one person's got to ruin it for everybody.
No, we don't want to hurt our clients.
That's true. We don't want to hurt our clients. You're right. Okay, so that is the end result. So as you go through, the texture on this mannequin is like so incredible. But you can see she's got this beautiful definition. You can see the shine that's reflecting, and then also just like the separation. So it's really like celebrating her texture by utilizing that LOC method and then going through.
Great opportunity to mention the mannequin. You know, part of this is we're supported by our friends at Pivot Point, and we wanted to do something creative to show even established salon owners, brand ambassadors, they still practice and try new techniques. If you want to learn and practice on curly hair, which I know a lot of us need to, for cutting, for color, for styling, or if you've got a new idea of how you want to do it, what a great thing. The Amber mannequin from Pivot Point, beautiful natural curly hair texture, and you can really get in there and learn a lot. You can try these techniques, you can try different techniques. If you're interested, check them out at the Pivot Point shop.
Amazing. All right, so for our fourth and final technique today, how are we doing? Do we have questions?
Lots of love coming in. Of course, there are lots of people who have different opinions on product
100%.
usage, which is great. We honor that.
Yep.
But today you're working with your LOC method. Some people are, again, asking you to explain that, what products you're using and how you're using them.
Totally. Yeah, so the thing about it is there's a lot of different possibilities there. And like you said, I know everyone has a different opinion, and I think it's really cool. And that's what makes... honestly, things like Hairbrained so great is because you guys are bringing together so many different opinions.
There's no right and wrong. If there's a happy client and you've built a good business, which you have here at your salon mix, then something's working right for you,
totally.
sister. Yeah, Laura Petty is mentioning we'd love to see you do a cutting class next time.
Yes, I would love to. I actually love cutting curly hair. And I was actually just telling Gerard that I would love to do something with, now that I've practiced on Amber, we can bring in some live models and to have some curly cutting would be super fun. Okay, So this is another technique that traditionally I do with my more like extra curly guests that are like, I would say shoulder length or above. Generally, the longer the hair, it can be a little bit tricky to do this technique. This is comb coils. Again, I learned this from my friend LaDonna, and it has been a game changer in how I play with my guests.
That's like a barbering comb.
Yeah.
It's a super fine tooth.
So it's a tapered, taper barbering comb. So it sounds like, people are having lots of questions there. So here's the thing. As we go through, I'm just using my comb. This will create a little bit of a tighter coil. Gerard, I know you were talking about like, well, what about the size of the coil? So if I'm using a comb to create a coil, you can see it creates a little bit more tension. And it just has that opportunity to create a tighter coil on that guest if that's what they're desiring. A lot of times when you're playing with like a zigzag curly formation, sometimes it can be tricky to create that ringlet sort of formation because you're essentially having to completely change it. So by using this comb coil, you can see it just creates a little bit of a tighter end result. And I can get that really consistent, beautiful sort of coily end result. I personally love like that zigzag, like really extra curly coily hair. So I love all of it, but again, we're just talking about those different opportunities or different possibilities to show your guests what's possible with their natural texture. That doesn't require any degree of like blow drying or anything like that, which listen, I have guests that come in and get their blowouts every 10 days too. This is just a different technique.
Now I love how kind of, I don't know what the word, I want to say minuscule because it's like small and defined, the curl. Now this obviously is labor intensive.
It is. And it's funny because as much as I can go through like with some degree of pace, like I would say I've seen women in the salons do this like so much faster than me. I can't even, they can get through this in like, 30 to 40 minutes.
It seems like, and you might tell your friends at Paul Mitchell, Neuro, maybe they can make a tool for this.
Right? Wouldn't that be amazing?
You can
Seriously.
But you don't want to over tighten, right?
Right.
Whoa. So how much time do you block out? We have a question. I'm not sure what language that is, maybe Chinese, so I can't say the person's name. But she's asking, how much time do you block out for a cut and set like this?
So generally speaking, like if a guest is coming in, it can be anywhere from like 45 minutes to like 2 hours, depending on the density of the hair that they're working with, and in their desired end result. So I would say generally speaking, like when I'm really doing like a full natural hair transformation, with like haircut, treatment, all of that, like it's usually like a 2-hour process, I would say.
And Paula, you have a lot of people just asking about the product application again.
Yes,
so obviously some people have a different opinion about how to apply product, and we honor that.
Totally.
But what is the approach that you use
today? Yeah. So this is a method that I use traditionally, I would say, with like the majority of my guests. And obviously, like you said, Gerard, sometimes different strokes for different folks. So sometimes you're going to change it up depending on the canvas. But I usually use a lot of the LOC method. So L stands for leave-in, O stands for oil, and then C stands for cream or gel. So what's really cool about it is I actually use our Lavender Mint leave-in spray, which I have somewhere here. Yeah, so this is our Lavender Mint conditioning leave-in spray. So it's gonna soften the hair and just help create smoothness as well, hydration. And then we utilized our tea tree Lavender Mint nourishing oil, which is right here. It's so incredible, the texture. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that.
So Adama Wade says there is a tool for the lock and twist, the lock and twist comb.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah.
There you go. Is it
Totally.
electric or?
I think it's still manual, isn't it?
Manual. Okay.
Yeah. All right. So as we go through. Oh yeah. Perfect. Okay, so
Right,
that's...
so lots of people are just joining us. Paula is
Hi,
showing a
everybody.
couple things. Number one, a philosophy that she follows about applying product. Sometimes, not always.
Yeah.
You said you change your philosophy from LOC depending on what you're doing.
Yeah.
Today she's showing the LOC method using the Paul Mitchell tea tree line, which is a bunch of new stuff that's coming out. It's top secret stuff that you helped to develop. We're working on the amber mannequin from Pivot Point, and Paul's been showing us, this is probably the third or fourth.
This is the fourth,
This is the fourth technique. All subtly different ways of twisting and kind of setting and preparing curly hair to get a beautiful finish.
Yep.
All techniques that she uses here at Salon Mix in Atwater Village in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So this last one, this is pretty labor intensive. You're not
It
even
is.
kidding.
Yep.
So you're going through in very fine sections using a very fine comb and twisting and smoothing.
I am.
But I mean, right away I can see, I mean, wow. I think that's truly beautiful.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can do way smaller sections than this. You can do larger sections as well. But generally speaking, like you'll do a smaller section, it'll be a little bit more of a twist. But what you can see here is the difference. So this is Amber's natural texture. This is with the comb coil. This is the finger coil technique, which is a little bit bigger. So again, like utilizing your finger, wrapping it around. And then obviously we have our Bantu knot techniques as well.
And we've got a mannequin under the dryer here where we'll be able to see a little bit of these finished techniques.
Yep, absolutely.
Just let me know when you're ready to pull that over.
I think we're ready. So if you want to pull her over,
all right, let's
we'll
get
go from
Amber's twin sister, Amber. Their mother was not very creative. She said, these girls look exactly alike. Let's give them both the same name. So meet Amber. Amber 2.
Totally. So these are, so here's the dried section. So these are our comb coils. You can see that they're a little bit smaller. I could make the sections even smaller if I desired. This is, okay, so this is actually a really great visual because you
this
can
is so
see,
beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So this is the difference between diffusing, where you get like the volume and the fullness, and then this is just drying under the hood dryer. So this is more of like a natural sort of air dried end result, whereas this has
It's
like
more
a little bit
airy and separated. This is more dense, and,
Right.
Yeah, because the air was just going in the one direction.
Yeah, but what's really cool is like even when this is essentially the same head of hair, right? So what you can see is like even in those two different methods of drying the hair, you can create something totally different. So that's really fun to be able to show your guests that like, hey, if you want more volume, diffuse your hair. If you want something that's like a little bit softer, less volume, a little smaller, then go ahead and air dry it.
I want to interrupt again just for 1 minute for you to talk about this because, I love being around Paula. She's so happy and positive from the first minute I met her a couple of years ago. She's all sun rays and sunshine. And I noticed in her salon, she's got this little thing that says, what if happiness was a choice? And I see that it's a class that she's teaching with her business partner here.
Totally.
And I'm just like, tell me about this because this is pretty awesome. You've got your clients.
Yep.
This is for your clients really mostly, right?
Yeah, it is. Or it's for anybody.
Anybody.
Sarah and I actually just launched a company or a brand called Being You Beauty. So it's really about empowering hairdressers to empower their guests by being them. So like so often in the industry, like we try to be something that we're not, and it's a lot of effort and it's hard. And we have a lot of guests, a lot of energy coming into our salons every single minute. And so we launched Being You Beauty to help empower hairdressers. And what if happiness is just a choice? The happy class is part of that. So all hairdressers are open, and Sarah might kill me, but let's do a little promo. If you guys want to join the class, you can join it. In your notes, when you go to register, we'll pop the link. Let's do $20 for a ticket. It's $30 for our guests. You'll get it for $20.
What's the date?
It's tonight, 7 o'clock, 7 p.m.
Awesome.
Pacific Standard
They'll
Time.
be beating down the doors here at Salon Mix and Atwater.
So it's actually live streamed. So
Ooh.
you can log in. If you type in Hairbrained, that'll be your super code, and we'll make sure that you can pay that $20. All right, so so the happy class, it's going to be amazing. Okay, so what I'm going to do is show you guys quickly, if I wanted to expand this a little bit more, what I would do is I would just take a little bit of oil, just a teeny bit on my fingers, and that's going to help to minimize frizz.
Now, what product is that? When you say oil, what is it exactly?
So this is the Tea Tree Lavender Mint Nourishing Oil. So this is both hydrating and smoothing, or moisturizing and smoothing. There's a couple of reasons. It has actually, it's a 3-oil blend. So there's Manoi, Piqui, and then there's also, I just lost the jojoba is the third one. Of course, jojoba is the one that everybody knows, and I can't, right? So that blend of oils really helps to lock in the natural moisture of the hair, again, seal down that cuticle. So what I can do is, as I come in, I can start to break this apart.
This is where it becomes magic, right?
Right,
Yeah.
because what then happens is, so say I were to start this from the bottom, like I can expand her natural texture. So this is really her natural air dry texture, right? But if I were to go through and I can expand this entire section, it can become this like massive, like curly kind of afro sort of texture, which is so awesome.
And is there any, like I see, it seems like you split the curls up about 3 pieces.
Yeah,
Is it
so
2
I
or
split
3?
that one curl into like, I think 4 maybe. But again, the smaller section you take, the less, the more hair you're gonna be expanding, the
Okay,
less.
so lots of people want to know when these products are going to be available. So Paula helped you work with testing and developing. When are all these new products?
I feel like I've been working with these products forever because I had the opportunity to go to the Product Innovation Center with John Paul Mitchell Systems, and I feel like we've been working on this forever. And I haven't even been doing that much work. I've just been using them and telling them what I like or don't like about it. But they launch in, I believe it's a June. It might be a July, August, either May, June, July, August. We'll get that information. Candace is on there. Candace, if you're still on there,
as you take out your Bantu knot, if people want to follow you, because a couple people are asking,
totally.
Where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram. Hair by Paula Peralta is me. So it's PaulaPeralta. That's me. Cool. All right. So what we're going to do is, I'm actually going to start here. I just want to make sure. Okay. So this is where it gets like a little tricky because you got to make sure it's dry. Because if it's not dry, then you...
That's what happened to me. What I was talking about earlier. I didn't do the Bantu knot, but I did like a 2-strand
coil. Yeah.
And it took hours and hours. Sent my model home overnight. The next day I was so ready for it, and like 50% of it was great, and then the last few were just can I say limp? They just went like,
Yep. Yeah, because it's not dry, and we can shift around this way. I don't know if the light's better for you, Randy. I mean, I know you're a master of camera work. Okay, so basically what I'm doing is I'm unraveling it the exact same way that I wrapped it. And what's really cool is you can already see when you go through there, like you can see how it's a different texture. Again, so it's the same head of hair, just a different technique, and it creates a totally different texture. So this is all too, you asked Gerard about following all the way through to the ends. So see there how that end coils all the way to the ends. If I weren't to have made sure to be really, really, really fastidious, there's my, the big word for the day.
Get out my dictionary.
Really diligent about coming through those ends, it would create some challenges. So again, I still have a little bit of oil on my hands, that nourishing oil on my hands, so I can start to expand. Here's the thing, we talked about how a guest could wear this as like a style if they wanted, right? I would make sure that these were like a little bit more firm for them, and then they could rock their Bantu knots for a few days, and then what they could do, and this is really, really common.
That'll definitely be dry.
Totally.
Leave it in for
Right.
2 days.
But
that pattern is just so beautiful.
Thank you.
I love that.
So what's really cool too though is like, so say the next day she could go, or like maybe 3 days later, she could expand the Bantu knots, but she doesn't have to necessarily expand it like we did on the comb coils. She can expand it like this and rock her texture like this for a few days, right? Which is cool. So as we go through, yeah, absolutely.
So when setting, does root direction make a difference here?
Yes, absolutely. So if I'm going to twist towards the face, obviously the hair is going to be pushing towards the face. If I wrap it away, it's going to come away. So here's the thing. Her base is still just a little bit wet, but you guys will still be able to get an idea of the end result.
So what is, I know obviously you just did this quickly this morning, put it into the dryer. If you're in the perfect world, how long should it take to dry?
I mean,
3
honestly,
days?
yeah. Ideally, you're probably going to want to wait at least an hour. But remember too that I showed you before we started doing the other Bantu knots is that I actually removed a lot of the moisture with my blow dryer first, just to make sure that I've got, like, you need some moisture in the hair because ultimately it is a wet set. But you want to make sure, sorry, I'm like working against myself here because I forgot this little guy. So you want to make sure that you take a good amount of the moisture out before you start wrapping it. Okay, so same thing. So I'm going to go ahead and she's ready to rock and roll.
I know it sounds like a simple question, but you're unwrapping in the opposite direction.
100%. Yeah. But it is a simple question, but it's actually important because if you're working against yourself, so basically like I wrapped this way, and I knew that that's how I wrap. So I just give it a little twist and then I can start unraveling it. Because if you don't do that, like if I try to like work it or really like get rough with it, remember you got to finesse it. You got to finesse it. So if you get really rough with it, you're going to create a lot of knots and tangles, which ultimately as you're detangling that creates frizz. So what I'm doing is I'm just using my finger to control the section. I'm using my other hand and just untwisting.
So like, it's almost like when you detangle hair, like you hold it and you
start at the base and work your way up.
And you hold it and love it. I'm learning so much today, which I know everyone at home that's watching is. Definitely people have different opinions about product, and
which
that's
is great.
Totally awesome.
Yeah.
Totally okay. Share your technique, get alive and share it. Today we worked in a very particular way called LOC, so you don't do it all the time.
So I usually, oh sorry, go ahead.
How do you choose when you're going to use that approach and when you're not?
So I always use LOC because I always want to put moisture into the hair. So the leave-in's always going to impart moisture. The oil is always going to help to seal down the cuticle, and then as well as the cream or gel is what creates definition.
I know for some people those are fighting words.
Yeah, it's true. I get it, and I get that.
They love your technique, but they don't. Not everybody agrees with the LOC method, which I'm learning.
100%. Yeah. That is so true. And here's the thing. You have to do what works for you because everyone's hair is different, and I get that 100%. Yeah.
Here's a great question from I've just lost it. Oh, Adama Wade. How do you get rid of the parting lines?
Ooh, that is a really good question.
Yep.
And I actually forgot to mention this. So you'll notice that all of my sections are on diagonals. So I worked in triangular sections. Part of that is because visually if my guest is going to rock their Bantu knots for a few days, like you want it to look cool.
Have you ever heard the term geodesic dome?
Yes.
Yes, that's what that is. It's a geodesic dome.
Yes. Yeah. So what I like to do is once I expand it, I then will go in with my fingers and either just kind of like break it up, and you can see that it starts to marry those partings together just a little bit, Or, here you go, here's your favorite tool, Gerard. Like, I'll come in with my chopstick and just like create a little bit of separation at the base to marry those sections together. So again, that does a couple of things. It creates volume and then also starts to marry those sections together.
Here's a general question from Amy Ola, and I'm going to answer this.
Hi,
so with
Amy.
these Facebook Lives, right now we're live.
Yeah.
We're live, right? Pinch you. Ow! It hurts because she's live. So, but they are saved forever.
Yeah.
So all you have to do is go to Hairbrained on Facebook, click the tab that says videos, and you can scroll through, you can watch these videos forever. You can fast forward, you can rewind, you can even continue to leave questions. If you tag Paula
totally.
or tag Hairbrained, we'll get a notification,
Yep.
and we try our best to follow up. So it's live once, but then it's saved forever in our video section.
Totally.
Right now we have over 400 of these videos, all for professionals, by professionals. The goal is bringing the education community together.
Yep.
And here's the bigger goal. Watching a video is great, but practicing is what it's all about.
100%.
At the very least, get yourself this mannequin, practice along. This is the Amber mannequin from Pivot Point. You want to take it to the next level, take a hands-on class with Paula or an educator that you love.
Totally.
Yeah? And if Paula, if people want to take hands-on training with you, what are some ways they can do that?
So the best way to do it is you can email me at, well, probably Instagram's gonna be best. Just go to Instagram, DMs, everybody's on it all the time.
Gotta give a shout out to Herman Cole.
Oh, Herman!
He's watching and says
Hi.
hello.
I love it. Hello, Herman. The other thing too, okay, two things. I have so many things, right? It's like hairdresser ADD. So also, if you love this video and you're like, hey, I'm gonna wanna reference this later, share it to your page. Because then you know it's already in your feed and you then have the opportunity to share that information with other people. You can get inspired. That's really, Hairbrained's so much about the community. So share that to your page and then you can connect and play with all the people, all the hairdressers on your page as well.
You shared so many great tips for us. I'm probably
you.
have a few last things you want to share with us.
Yep. Okay. So I'm just going to show you really quickly how to dress out. I'm going to clip these away. So again, like this could be, she rocks this for a little bit. It's a little bit more coily. This is her Bantu Knots. I don't know what I did with all my things.
What are you looking for?
My clips. They're gone. It's okay. I can use my chopstick. It's a multi.
You want to take one of these?
Yes. No, I'll just do that. Thank you. Okay.
It's kind of a great way to loosen them up a little bit, right?
Totally. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now I'm just going to show you guys how I would dress this out. So same thing. And I can take a smaller section if I want a little bit less texture. I can take a bigger section if I want a little bit more texture. But what's really cool is you can see it starts to create that coil and then it really like builds up the volume of the hair itself. So again, just a different way to do.
I love that.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's fun.
I love it all. I sound a little bit like a parrot today because I keep saying it, but I truly love it. I love that you've got an approach, you believe in something, you try, you share with so much positivity.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being our guest today. Thank you all for watching and sharing. Thank you specifically to Pivot Point for continuing to support this series, and to our friends at Paul Mitchell for making these great products and for creating the ambassador, Paula Peralta, an ambassador for Paul Mitchell.
That's right.
Peace out, guys. We'll see you again real soon.
We'll see you soon, guys.